Oil of Every Pearl's Un Inside. Sophie, qu'est-ce que tu as voulu dire par là? Une interview en anglais.
It's actually the only title I thought of for the album, and I was just playing around with words. I was stoned and I thought it sounded cool. You know, all of the things in the title are things that I respond to in some way, but then I guess I was playing with the using words like sounds, you know what I mean?
Tonight here in Belfort, you're playing on the stage that's set up on the lake. It's a stage that's curated by Beth Ditto. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that, but thanks very much for having me, Beth Ditto.
So there is Beth Ditto, a French artist called Kitty Smile, maybe you've heard of him. Faka from South Africa as well. Is it important in a big festival like that to have a whole stage devoted to LGBT artists?
Well, I didn't know this, and the reason they probably didn't tell me this is because I might not have done it if I did know that. Because I don't know, there should be no separation. I mean, in my personal experience, people who identify as LGBT make some of the best music, but not all of it. That certainly shouldn't be a factor in booking anyone for a festival. If you want true equality, then treat everyone on an equal level. Yeah, I feel.
Yeah, but of course, but are we there yet? Or do we need people like Beth Ditto she did some of the hard work back then in the early 2000s?
Right, yeah. No, I know. I'm very appreciative of that. I don't know. I mean, you're asking me whether I agree with LGBT stages at festivals, and actually I don't. Yeah.
Okay, Pascal?
I have just one complicated question. I'm a big fan of you since the PC music production, and I just would like to understand how you've built your production world, how have you been your evolution in the electronic scene, because your music is quite unique, but it's full of references we like because of EDM, because of war, because of a lot of things, and I just would like to understand what was your evolution in electronic music?
When I started listening to music, it was initially early rave music that I heard through my dad and my family, and then it became interested in disco music as a teenager, researching a lot of early Chicago and New York DJs and Paradise Garage era stuff, and learning a lot about the disco music was happening then and on these forums. But then I became interested in Autechre and the sort of natural evolution of techno pioneers that happened in Detroit, Chicago, New York. But then also I was confronted with pop music and capitalism in the UK and marketing and all of that high street stuff. And you can't ignore that at the same time. So it's inauthentic for me, based on where I'm coming, thinking about my references, to ignore that completely. It's a part of who I am, and ultimately what I do is try to pull together the strands of these different things that have interested me, learn about them, and make a music which to me feels relevant to this moment and relevant to who I am at this moment. So I'm certainly not interested in making retro Detroit techno or whatever it is. I'm not from Detroit and we're not in the 80s, so why would I do that, It's obviously I'm a fan of all that stuff, but it's been done, It's been done and it was brilliant. But now I wonder, what's next? How can we make sense of this information we have around us?
Would you say you make pop music, Sophie?
I certainly would like to. I think all music really should be pop. I certainly view everything that I'm interested in as pop music, even when you're talking about Autechre or whatever. It's music that aims to communicate to the senses, communicate to people, and on a very basic level, that's what pop music represents to me. Is the intention there is to communicate rather than to obscure or abstract something to the point of alienating someone. Yeah.
You said in an interview somewhere that you like to keep sounds flexible, and I was wondering, is sound to you of more vibration or material? Is it something physical or something that you feel?
I think it's both things actually. You are listening to the sound and it's pushing you, but you're also pushing it, and there's this tension between the two. I do think of sound like being like clay when I first start, because often it's just like a sine wave or a square wave or a saw wave or whatever it is, and the synthesizer, that's basically just getting a raw block of clay, and from there, you can decide which shapes, colours you want to make. Yeah.
You said you didn't want to be a pop star, and we kind of feel, that with the vibe with this album coming out, and that's where it's headed. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think what I probably said was it was never my intention to be a pop star. I'm very much more interested in producing the music. That's where I feel most able to express myself. But at the same time, this whole pop machinery is so messed up. It's like if nobody else is going to do it properly, then I will probably have to try myself. But it's never listened to the radio or looked at the TV and thought I want to be a pop star. The people I was interested in, as I just said, were more producers, DJs, musicians, experimentalists, I suppose.
There's been all these amazing reviews about your album throughout the world, and people tend to qualify you as a pioneer. How do you relate to that?
Yeah, that's really cool that people can see it that way now. I mean, to be honest, it's just like what I have been doing can fulfill that role to a certain extent, but only because there's so much rubbish around. It's like there's going to be people around the world that are doing shit that's way more exciting and interesting and relevant than me. If I was in charge of these publications, I'd take it upon myself to try and find these people and really think about what they're doing, rather than a lot of the stuff that does get coverage currently. I think it's cool though, and I'm really going to try my best for everyone to just do the best I can and be myself and produce music that I feel is standing for something, representing something, and
and maybe it's the last question. You've worked with Diplo for Madonna, and this album now is very at the same time pop and experimental. Do you think that commercial and indie, experimental, all those words that journalists label on artists, they still mean anything? And do you think the public relate to it?
No, I don't think they mean anything. I mean, stuff that's classed as experimental music sounds like what experimental sounded like 30 years ago. That's not experimental. That's the opposite. So I think they've just become hugely distorted, and there's way more like genuinely experimental stuff going on. I think perhaps in areas that people are not looking. Yeah.
Sophie, thank you so much. Oil of Every Pearl's Earn Insights, this cryptic title that will remain a bit cryptic to us, but still poetic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have to keep a few things for myself,